Hello, this is Hot Indonesia, your weekend love affair. I'm Dalton Tanonaka in Jakarta. Here is this week's HI Hot List. Fear Factor, why Jakarta ranks last in a Safe Cities report. Crime and punishment, should Indonesia kill the death penalty? And dress code, can night spots keep people out wearing religious headscarves? Here with me every week are Rahayu Saraswati, Sarah, first-year parliament member, activist, and queen of clean. Kind of a neat nick, right? Just so you are.
Some people would argue.
Okay. And Yeni Wahid, director of the Wahid Institute, daughter of the 4th president of Indonesia, and dancing queen. Yeah, she is. Hot topic number 1, fear factor. The latest report from the UK's Economist Intelligence Unit ranks 50 cities on 5 continents for their safety. And Jakarta comes in at number 50, at the bottom. The assessment is based on 4 areas: health and digital security, and personal and infrastructure safety. Just ahead of Jakarta is Tehran at number 1 on the list. No surprise, Tokyo. Of course, there are big differences between Tokyo and Jakarta, Japan and Indonesia. But we should be ahead of places like Mexico City and Tehran, and we're not, which is pretty scary.
Well, I was going to ask what the criteria was based on. I mean, safety, I was thinking more like security, as in when you're walking down the street at night,
That's part
you
of it.
feel
Yep,
safe,
yep,
right? But then when you do take into account maybe, I don't know what, the construction, digital security and all of that, perhaps it's not like that. But however, for those of us living here, I personally feel safer here than in certain European countries.
And in New York,
cities.
I feel safer here than walking on the streets of New York.
Yeah, to be honest.
But crime is a growing concern here because the economy is growing and the middle class disposable income, and that's when crime also grows, unfortunately.
I think one of the problems that people look at is there's no safety, no safety precautions, in the sense that if you get involved in a crime, if you get caught in a crime, then act against you, then there might not be a police.
Right.
Police.
There's no like 911 that's gonna come like to the rescue.
There is 911. There is a.
But I mean, not one that will be there in 5 minutes.
Well, they will respond to you like in 3 hours.
Oh God.
Once.
Okay, that's right.
And then, unfortunately, sometimes you have to add a little incentive to them to do your case.
Precisely,
and that's part of the problem. Okay. Digital security, you mentioned that. We are in 48th place out of 50. And that means your city has a dedicated cyber crimes unit. You have the frequency of identity thefts in your city. So we're still a developing kind of technology nation. So I understand why we're low on that list.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, but
because
again,
we use social media so much here.
Yeah, but that's why I was asking about whether what the criteria was. I mean, obviously there's a lot of things that we're still behind on when we're talking about, okay, yes, safety in terms of, do we feel we can come forward when a crime has been done to us? Like, do we feel like it's gonna go forward in court without having to bribe anybody, right? That kind of thing. Yeah, that's still a big problem. But at the same time, when you're talking about the community and people being there for you, I think they still rally with you, for you,
especially in the villages. In urban areas, maybe the safety level is lower than in rural areas.
Yeah, big city problems.
Yeah, they are collective mechanism, to safeguard everyone. They've got
like a neighborhood watch.
Neighborhood
in the US.
watch, absolutely.
That kind of system.
Yes,
okay.
they do that.
Infrastructure safety. Let's move on. We're in 48th place, and that's no surprise to me. And that refers to quality of roads, accidents, and deaths from natural disasters. Meaning, are our structures safe? Are they built with proper standards? We're not quite world standard yet.
And I think it's also the basic is knowledge of, safety on the road, as in just wearing the seat belt, I mean,
helmets.
Oh gosh, you have families of like 3 children with the parents, squeezing them between, it is a bit scary to say the least.
And what does it all go back to? Enforcement of laws that are on the books, right?
Enforcement of law, and also culture. Values that people are, that parents are instilling in their kids, and making sure that, the kids will follow the rules.
Right.
And also that they will take certain precautions to make sure that they're safe. I mean, there is this mentality in Indonesia, which is that just leave it to God. You know, that kind of mentality. You know, if it's my
Yeah.
fate, I'm in an accident, I will be in an accident. There's also that kind of
But that's
cultural
a wrong...
layers. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. It's fatalist, you know, fatalistic
Yeah.
attitude about life.
And especially
That's
when
the one.
you said your kids, you know, they don't have control over what they're doing on the motorbike with their parents behind
Some
them.
of them are like falling asleep, you know,
Yeah.
and we're just
But they
here,
grow
we're
up
like,
kind of
okay.
smashed between the mother and father in traffic, right?
But again, when we're talking about transportation and all that, back again, you know, it just means it's not even about, okay, do we stop them from traveling? I mean, they still want to go see their family somewhere else, you know.
And it's based on
across the-
economy. They can't afford a car.
and public transportation that unfortunately is still, you know, it's developing here. I mean, I hope it's getting better, especially in Jakarta, but, you know.
Okay, health security was the last area. Jakarta's highest ranking at number 44. And what that means is based on the ratio of, for example, hospital beds to patients, number of doctors.
Oh, you're not just
per-
talking about pollution.
No. Mainly medical care. And
That's the first
you know,
thing.
that's a little deceiving too, because we may have a lot of beds, but then the quality of service in the beds, to me, still has to rise to the global standard, say it like a Singapore or a Malaysia, where we travel to get medical checkups a lot of times. I think our quality of service is improving here. I don't think we're quite there. Is that fair?
Again, in some in urban areas, you might see a better ratio between, you know, hospital beds and a number of patients. But when you go to rural areas, it's just appalling, the condition there. I mean, people have to travel like
Yeah,
kilometers before
yeah.
they can go to hospital, a proper
Absolutely.
hospital.
In your district in Central Java?
Yeah, they have to, I mean, come on, we have pregnant, like about to give birth ladies, like going on motorcycle on really bad roads to actually make it to the hospitals. It's still something that a lot of us, we need to really build our infrastructure to actually, again, make it possible for people
Yeah, and
to
again,
get
being ranked last out of
access.
50 cities, I mean, it's a subjective thing. You know, it's based on their analysis, but we get the message. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lot-
Actually, there's one thing that I do want to touch on is the, you know, child safety right now. Is we're talking about in schools. We're talking about, you know, when is it safe in our communities? And unfortunately, it's an issue that hardly anybody talks about. So when we're talking about child abuse, we're talking about child pornography, it's still very much behind closed doors, and we have the same issues as it is abroad.
Yeah, thankfully, we don't have those issues of gun violence in schools, which is plaguing other countries, as we know. Okay.
But we have walls.
Yeah,
okay.
that's with big knives.
All right. Hot Indo will continue shortly.
Should we kill the death penalty?
You're watching Hot Indonesia with Yenny, Sarah, and me. Here's hot topic number 2, crime and punishment.
Early on January 18th,
6 people shot and killed in Central Java for drug crimes. Prior to and immediately after, critics here and abroad roared again that the death penalty is inhumane. Indonesia's president listened, then said he would continue to reject pleas for clemency in the future. Indonesia and other Southeast Asian countries well known for tough drug laws. So supporters of capital punishment say the criminals knew what they were facing if caught. So why cry now?
We talked about this earlier, actually.
In
on one of our shows.
whenever
that,
there's
you know,
executions, we talk
former
about it.
shows,
But this time the outrage seems louder and people are doing more
Well,
things.
No, I mean, what I'm saying is, before we talked about it when we were on the other channel, we had the subject with Anggun, remember? And, you know, it's clear that for some of us, our stance is completely against, we're completely against death sentence, especially here. And it's not just especially, but we're just against it in general. However, again, I think it's a bigger outrage because it's happening to the international, it's as in they're citizens of other countries. And perhaps
Of the 6,
there-
1 was Indonesian, the 5 are foreign nationals. So.
Right. There were those involved that are not Indonesian citizens, and of
Good
course
point.
it goes down to diplomacy, and it goes down to, you know, it's the same as when our workers abroad, you know, get put on the death sentence, death row. We also try to make sure that, you know, they come home and that,
Yeah.
you know,
Several
they
countries
don't
they called
have
their
to face that,
ambassadors
right?
in protest for this, Australia
Yes.
and others. But you know this, listen to
And
this.
Brazil.
In 2013, Japan, Taiwan, and the United States actually executed more people than Indonesia.
Well, Well,
So we're
yes.
an easier target to pick on? Is that why?
I like how you put we, Dalton.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to say that. First of all, we.
Because
yes.
the third segment, I want,
Here.
I want to stay. But
Despite the
yeah,
lack
despite the
of,
language. Okay.
Despite the language barrier.
But my point is, people direct criticism toward Indonesia when other countries are doing it in larger numbers. So are there equal protests going in that country? I don't hear about it.
Maybe not in the international community as much, but I don't know. I mean, I think I have yet to
doesn't
research
really
on
make
Japan.
news, I suppose. I mean, if United States executes some people,
You don't see people recalling their ambassadors from the U.S. like they do here.
over these issues.
And okay, Sarah's point, Yan, that if there were, let's say, if there are 6 Indonesians executed last Sunday, would there
Or
be the
maybe
outrage?
because they have
Probably not as
extradition.
big.
Maybe because they have extradition law with the respective countries, which means that the inmates would be executed, not the international inmates will be executed in their respective countries,
But
not in
I'm
the
sure
United
they
States.
didn't
I don't
request
know.
extradition because these are drug suspects. They're not like political prisoners
Well,
or
and
like
the
that.
law
you
is
know?
clear here in Indonesia about drug.
That's what I said in the
related
beginning.
laws. Exactly,
So then-
and it's kind of you said it's clear. You come here with drugs, you come here selling drugs, or you come here whatever to do with drugs. It's
So
just
you're for the death
unacceptable.
penalty?
No. I'm not for the death penalty, but I'm just saying what you said,
Yeah.
which is that the law is clear.
Yeah.
You know, whether or not it's going to be death penalty or it's going to be sentenced for life in prison, that's just the law.
And some say that the life sentence is even more inhumane. I mean, you're living with no hope.
Oh well, there you go. Actually, I'm all
Overcrowded.
for life sentence in like a place like Alcatraz, and
Oh, it's closed. It's a tourist
that's
place.
so,
Okay.
that's so
You know,
Christian of me to say.
let's go back to the critics. The critics of this. Critics say the trend that countries should be moving away from the death penalty, but Indonesia seems to be embracing it further. And Jokowi, our president, has had to talk tougher when he first got into office, saying no clemency. I'm going to do this. The Wall Street Journal reports that since the late 1980s, the number of countries abolishing capital punishment has nearly tripled from 35 to 99. Indonesia's going the other way.
In fact, there's a call to include corruption, people convicted of corruption charges,
For death
also for
penalty.
death penalty if the
Whoa.
corruption charges is high enough.
But the studies show that death penalties do not some say, do not deter occurrence of crimes. It doesn't weaken the drug crime. Or would it?
Personally,
I'm
I
not
think it's
sure
an
if it-
easy way out. I'm sorry, but for those who know that they're in the wrong, it's like, okay, yeah, just kill me. I'm sorry, but it's for me. It's like it's come on.
You know what the forgotten issue in all this are the families
Yes.
of the victims.
Of the victims.
Okay?
Of the victims.
Yes.
It provides the death penalty, the capital punishment provides a closure to the victim. To the family,
And
in a way.
if
it's a manslaughter's cases.
if it's
for example. I
murder,
don't know
even
about
drugs.
the-
If your
the drugs.
child or daughter got strung out on drugs and committed crimes, you'd be pretty upset. So maybe an answer, and it's my solution. Maybe families in Indonesia, the families of victims of drugs or other offenses, maybe they should be given the authority to say death or no death. I mean, then unless you sit in that seat, you don't know. How do you feel?
We don't have a jury system here.
I know,
Yeah,
but I know
that's
I'm
one
just
of the
saying
things
that
that,
they're the only ones to me to be able to sit in judgment because they were the ones directly affected.
But that's the thing, though. When you're in that state, can you actually make a fair judgment?
it'll never happen,
You
but I'm
just
just
want to
saying-
blame someone.
Yes.
I mean,
Right.
The debate is still going to happen, Dalton.
If a loved one of
everywhere,
yours,
all around the world.
heaven forbid that were hurt or whatever, you'd feel pretty angry.
Of course.
You'd
and
want.
I would know that I would not want to make a decision at that time, because I would not be in the right state of mind to make a fair and just decision. I would just want to blame someone, I think, to be fair. And I would like to think that I would be, I don't know, generous enough to actually be able to forgive.
Yeah. Yan, are you support death penalty or not?
I'm very ambiguous about it because there's of course the pros and cons about it, and there is all this issue of overcapacity of prisons,
Yes.
overcrowding
Yes.
of prisons here, and under resources that we have, and which means that it's just not feasible to have life sentences, to have prisons maids. For life sentences, because we have so many issues at hand, and so many. For me, there are cases which
Certain cases call
certain
for it.
cases,
in your
like
opinion.
psychopath, like crazy people. You cannot just even if
Real
you
quickly.
keep them in.
I'll say one last thing. Death sentence for people like me and Anggun, it's like saying we're giving up on you and we don't want you here on earth.
But some people are, you can't.
Acting
But
like
no, but
God and- yeah.
but that's the thing.
I
It's
understand, okay.
it's like we're giving up on you.
I got it.
And we don't want
And
you
that's
around.
a debate. That is debate. Okay, more Hot Indo is coming up.
Can clubs keep women in headscarves out in the cold?
You're watching Hot Indonesia from Jakarta. Hot topic number 3, dress code. A young woman described a disappointing experience in a recent Jakarta Globe opinion piece. She tried to enter 2 night spots and was refused entry because she wears a headscarf. She was told that alcohol could not be sold to someone wearing what we call a jilbab. But she wrote that she had not planned to drink and other Muslim men and women were allowed in. I think simply the clubs are wrong in this case, especially if the customer in a head covering was there just to join her friends at a gathering and not there to drink.
If she wants to drink, I mean, what rights do they have, to tell her not to? Even if,
She has the right to drink too. So you're saying it goes
she has the
beyond
right
that.
to, yes, she has the right
Okay.
to drinks. But I think this goes beyond the issues of religious issues here. This is, I think, it's an issue of a certain image that the club's trying to portray to their clientele.
status thing,
because
or
yes, because if you have women in jilbab sort of hanging around your clubs, then it's not probably the owner is worried that it might not be seen as a hip club anymore.
Hey,
I think-
your headscarves are very hip. You're very
and
cool.
I'm a very hip person.
I
as
know
well,
that. We know
yes.
that. So have you been denied entry or have you had problems with that at all? Of course not. You're Yenny. But do you think
yeah.
you understand her dilemma? I mean,
Yeah,
and her
yeah.
anxiety over this.
Yeah, and I think what she was the issue that she raised that the hypocrisy when it comes to all discriminatory what do you call it, regulations
Practices,
against
yeah.
it's against her. I mean, when it comes to men, Muslim men or Muslim women who are not covered, they're allowed entry and they're allowed to drink
Yeah,
alcohol.
of course. So if the
it's-
issue is alcohol, then you got to ban all Muslims.
Yes,
Because in the Quran
yes.
or Hadith says that you cannot drink, right?
No.
That reminds me of what has been actually enforced in Malaysia. You go to like Genting Highlands, and if you look somewhat Indo, like as in Malaysia,
They don't let you in?
They won't let you in.
But you have a foreign passport?
I would have to bring my passport.
Oh.
But if you look slightly Chinese descent, then they don't even stop you. They don't bother with your clothing.
Okay.
But because you're looking a certain way, even if you don't have a headscarf, they literally question, why are you wearing shorts?
Okay, so private clubs evidently have, and we did some checking, have a right to let in who they want to by what you're wearing. Because I know one other disco that won't allow women in if they don't have heels.
Right.
And that's nothing to do with religious beliefs, just how
Yeah,
you
that's
look. So
just-
maybe it's not a religious issue for the club, it's appearance. But that's discriminatory in itself.
Yeah, you know what? Then
Because
that's
they're
just
not
the
going to
club.
ask you to take
That's
off your
just the
headscarf to
club.
go
That's
in,
like
right?
Stupid. Never mind.
Well, if
Is it the
they-
larger religious issue for this young lady who wrote, saying that we are in a Muslim majority country, alcohol is forbidden, so it's a larger issue she's talking about.
I think the largest issue is about the hypocrisy that's surrounding us. That the headscarf is a cross, for her. I mean, she has to bear that and be a sort of a symbol of hypocrisy, that she has to bear the morality of the society. It's always the woman who's always been the target of a symbol of morality in this society.
Let's go
So
with
it's-
Yenny one night. See if would they turn you away, you think?
No, but my case is, I think it's a bit more
If they know
different
you by-
because they recognize
Yenny's
me.
back, okay.
Because they recognize me from those days. Oh no, okay. Before I went
Your
to
table's
Skype.
ready, Miss Yenny.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, no, but because they recognize me,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
they probably wouldn't dare to.
to say no.
See, and that's not right because
That's not
this
right,
young
that's
lady
not
just wanted to join her
But
friend.
you know what's really
yes,
funny? Talking
yes,
about,
I agree.
seriously, just talking about it in general. I'm not talking about nightlife or anything like that, but it's really funny because, I mean, I've heard some of my friends look at women wearing the headscarves and then they're holding hands with their boyfriends or they're sitting on their boyfriend's laps. And then I would hear these comments like, why the heck is she wearing a headscarf if she's going to be doing that? Because if she's going to be doing that, then that goes against what she's, you know, what the very principles of wearing
that
a
the
headscarf.
headscarf represents.
Yeah,
And
so
we talked about Jill boobs before, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
oh, I forgot about
Yeah.
that.
So,
Wow.
I mean, what do we do, Yanni? What do you tell this young lady? What would you advise this young lady?
just be yourself. I mean, don't that kind, don't let that kind of discriminatory act deter her from becoming who she is. From being who she is, and then just try to go to other clubs.
Because there are clubs that would let her in.
Probably, I don't know, but there are probably
maybe
other
we should
clubs
do a
that-
research on this. Send
Yeah.
someone off with a headscarf.
With a
And then
hidden
try to
camera.
reason with,
See because it
with
shouldn't.
the bouncers or something.
Her
I don't
points
know.
in
But
this
I
country
wonder
shouldn't
if
happen.
I wonder if people would even support that though. I think that's another discussion by
90%
itself. I
Islamic
think they'll
followers,
just be
what do you
like,
think?
"Why are you going into a club?"
True, right?
Right.
There's the other side, the strictly
other
religious
side.
side saying well, you shouldn't be in there anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why it's being debated. Okay, feedback time now. We want to know what you think about what you're hearing here. Aurora tweeted this: "Bravo for the Indonesia channel. Local content is going global." Well, that is our mission, Aurora, and our distribution around the world continues to grow. If you have any feedback on what you've heard or would like to suggest a topic for us to handle, please email us at hotindo@theindonesiachannel.com. We want your emails, please, or comment through our Indonesia channel Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram pages. Final words, Yenny.
I read this quote, which is, I think it's really nice, and I'd like to quote it here, which is, be nice to people on your way up because you meet them on your way down, by Jimmy Durante.
Ooh, what
Jimmy
goes up
Durante,
will come
Jimmy
down.
Famous entertainer in early 30s, 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
Okay, final words, Sarah. And by the way, well, we'll talk about these cupcakes next. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was about to say that. Obviously, you probably noticed I'm not wearing as much makeup as usual. I think it's just really concerning for me to see how some women actually literally go to the salon on their way to the mall. And I think I just want to spread the message out there that, well, this is how I look actually every day in Parliament. And you don't have to put on that much makeup.
War paint.
Because research has been done that actually if you put half as much as you usually do, that's as much as people actually like you to put on.
And you
So-
save half your makeup
and
budget.
it's all about inner beauty. It'll shine through. Hopefully mine will, because
But
I have a lot of zits
the
right
economy
now.
will suffer.
Yes.
The
let's make
economy
it.
will-
My final words. When it's tempting to cross the line in business or pleasure, that's when you've got to be the strongest. Because if you get something the wrong way, what you have is not worth the ethical price.
Ooh, I think it's sweet vibes.
And that is Hot Indonesia for this week. For
nice.
Sarah and Yenny, I'm Dalton Tanonaka. See you next time.